Empire Counts are absolutely one of the factions to benefit most from the cavalry beta. I mean, secretly, they're probably the number 2, arguably the number 1 cavalry faction in the game, given that in some ways they actually have better support tools for cavalry than Bretonia does, and you have access to Blood Knights as well, which are insanely strong. But here today I'm up against Rider of Rohan once again. This is an old build of mine from many moons ago, Kemmler Bonetonia. Basically the idea here is that you take Kemmler with nothing. He is just a distraction mostly. I mean, he can heal in an AoE, give +5 melee attack. Mostly he just needs to get in range to summon Krell, and then he's done most of his value. Also got Claw of Nagash, frontline of zombies, a couple of skeletons, 1 spear, 1 regular, Sternsman with the White King, and the Unholy Lodestone. The spells are on the Necromancer, who's also on a corpse card here. 2 Blood Knights out to the right side. On the left, we've got 2 Black Knights, no lances, just the regular sword and shield, and the Dire Pack. On the High Elves side, this is sort of what the meta would be considered somewhat in the last patch, which is sort of wide infantry. Got Sisters of Avalorn and Talons of Torquelada, which are going to do a lot of damage in this initial phase. 5 White Lions on the front line, a couple of Spears, a couple of Rangers. I know, like, Phoenix Guard are probably more the meta. I don't know, actually, to be honest. But anyway, it's going to be rough here. You can see with the additional weakness to fire, Net of Ammontok also from, is that Teclis? No, Alariel, obviously, like I said, just a separate light mage, but the Claw of Nagash does have some magic resistance. Not really going to help much in this situation, though, as it gets completely shredded. And that is definitely a giant piece down early on for me. Kemmler also going to receive a high degree of fire directly to the face. I do mean literal fire, which is not ideal. But if I can get him into combat without him dying, that is going to be just fine. White Lines getting charged here by the Blood Knights on the left flank of Rider of Rohan, just completely demolished here. They pretty much get shattered in one charge. Earthblood attempts to sustain them. We do manage to get Kemmler into combat. The Claw of Nagash goes down in the center, though. You can see Krell is summoned. He's going to be just monster marauding in this back line here. I'm going to try my best to keep the archers disrupted with zombie summons, with the Black Knights charging in and out here, but Rider of Rohan's doing a pretty good job protecting with the White Lions here. You can see my Black Knights are really not trading well at all. But this center engagement, I mean, I have... you can see the Star of Avalorn obviously healing here, but just to give you an idea on these Sternsmen, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 passive healing effects, you know, totaling however much... like, what, 18 HP, 16 HP, something like that, hit points per second healing. So really, I'm not too worried. Kemmler might go down here, but he's very likely going to heal cap himself. So the rest of the battle mostly just comes down to my Blood Knights and Black Knights trying to cycle charge as much as possible. Haven't really used the Dire Pack much, so we're going to bring them in now, potentially chase some routing units, get on these Sisters of Avalorn, not allow them to continue to fire. Likewise, I mean, Krell, you can see in here just pounding various characters, whatever he can get his hands on. A little bit of Barona's Time Warp for the High Elves is going to give some extra melee attack to the Rangers. They will just shred zombies and skeletons very quickly. But as long as, again, I can keep my cavalry alive, Black Knights are a little bit sacrificial here. They still don't trade amazing into a nice mid-tier great weapon like White Lions, but Blood Knights are the source of power here, getting into these squishy, expensive archers. Really nice charge. Sisters of Avalorn have decent melee defense, but it's not going to be enough to protect them from an elite cavalry charge like that. Summon zombies as well, getting in the back line, just continuing to bog down models, not allow them to fire. Unholy Lodestone is going to go down, so I've lost now 2 passive healing sources, but even still, we've got 4 passive healing sources on the Sternsmen, including their own innate regeneration, so that's just fine. Still plenty of summoned zombies as well. Krell's probably about to go down in terms of summoning. Let's see. Still has a decent amount of time left on his timer. I forget. Krell's timer is quite long. And Alariel's on foot here, which means she's going to have a lot of melee defense, like we saw in another recent battle. Yeah, 67 melee defense. So Kemmler obviously won't be able to do much for her. Even Krell with 60 melee attack she doesn't count as large. He's not going to get the bonus versus large there, and it won't apply that much damage. But even still, basically the goal is to just kill the rest of the army first, and Alariel can be saved for the end. So the Blood Knights in view here. Got some Rangers kind of pursuing the Dire Pack. That anti-infantry bonus will apply to the Dire Pack, so that's not great for me. But even still, if we can just pull them out of this main blob fight here, and just keep the Blood Knight cycle charging. I definitely think that in the last patch, these White Lions would have traded better into the Blood Knights. A little bit of a volley directly on Kemmler there. Does send him into crumbling. So Kemmler's going to go down, but again, he's like not many points at all in terms of value. Well, Scav Scrat there on the Sisters of Avalorn. And the Blood Knights are still fighting. I mean, 100 kills there, 117 kills there. Those Rangers got almost 200 kills on zombies, which is very impressive, but there's plenty more where those came from. You can literally probably just resurrect the Rangers as zombies, right? That would be a pretty cool mechanic, honestly, if there was some kind of raise dead mid-battle outside of just summoning zombies, basically. Like, if a certain number of models had died, you would get, like, an extra zombie summon or something. I don't know. Not that vampire counts need anything else. They are quite strong right now. And especially after the cavalry beta, it just opens up a little bit more flexibility for them. You're not so focused into specific types of, like, you know, 10 Graveguard builds or 8 Graveguard builds. Cavalry builds for vampire counts are exceptional, so I am definitely glad that they're going to be a little bit more viable again. Secretly, I do enjoy playing vampire counts cav builds, because again, like, you have peasants, which are unbreakable, more or less, and cause fear. You have, you know, the ability to passively heal all of your knights very easily and regenerate models on them, right? You don't have any archers, but you do have, again, basically unbreakable spears, which are decent. Nice access to attack and speed buffs. And you can see that the High Elves are going to hold out for some time. Lariel probably will not give up the fight easily. Pretty much everything else is shattered, though. So, there we go. Get the White King and the Necromancer in a 2v1 on Alariel. All her fancy spin moves can't help her from the dread of the corpse cart. Oof, and the shank from... dirty shank from the... Man, could you imagine what kind of tetanus you would get from the White King's sword? Old rusty blade. Anyway. Fun stuff. Well played, Ryder Rohan. We were both basically like, okay, so the cavalry builds work against great weapon builds, at least in this context. Despite this, the White Lions did pretty decently overall. I mean, three of them paying for themselves. Pure main company, not quite, but the one that was over on the far flank just got absolutely deleted by Blood Knights on the initial chart. Not a lot to be done about that. Just like for me, not a lot to be done about having the Claw of Nagash sniped out, and that's kind of one thing about this build is, yes, it's great to have the Mortis engine. It's an expensive target. You know, I would much prefer to have it than not have it, but at the same time, because you have so much decentralized value in this build, like, I have used this build a number of times in the past, lost the Mortis engine, and still won, just because much of the power is in the Blood Knights, the Black Knights, the Sternsman healing box. I mean, these guys by themselves got 2,317 damage value, 11,000 damage dealt, and are still could, you know, go for another 20 minutes probably, right? Like, they are quite healthy still, and a lot of that comes down to the overlapping healing effects, and just in general having awesome stats. Black Knight struggled a little bit, but even still, their role of kind of breaking that initial formation was important, pulling a few of those White Lions away into that back line, interrupting some of the archers that didn't have completely free reign to fire. Zombies, obviously, are zombies. I mean, fairly cost-effective, honestly, with the sort of overlapping healing and support as well. They actually can pay for themselves, which it doesn't take a lot to do so. Yeah, Dire Pack had a rough time, but anyway, on Ryder Rohan's side, we would expect to see some pretty inflated values to a degree, and I mean, lots of stuff ends up paying for itself, because that's just kind of how it goes against vampire counts, but because I have so much healing, it's just not enough at the end of the day. Like, Sisters of Avalorn, almost 1,800 damage value, 1,350 for the other one. Talons of Torquelada, 1,200 damage value. Like we said, with all the White Lions, they pay for themselves. This Spearman getting more than 1,200, almost 1,300 damage value, 10,000 damage dealt overall, 11,000 damage dealt overall. I mean, the damage output total, like these Rangers, 14,000 damage dealt, 800 damage value. It's just... so many zombies to kill, and so much healing, and then you have the cavalry to kill everything else, and that's kind of how it used to be for vampire counts when I would play them. They were still good enough with their cavalry that they could kind of just brute force through not having great cavalry engagements, but now and that combined with kind of the AoE nerf does mean that a couple of the tougher matchups before, like Dark Elves, I think, with Soul Stealer, Also, to a degree, Beastman was tough when Traderkin was a little broken. It's still probably about even, but I don't know, Blood Knights should be better in that matchup now as well. Anyway, I've rambled on long enough about Bone Tonia here. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. See you next time.